Today is the 8th of December 2018. I would like us to look at the fourth industrial revolution as a phenomena that is affecting all of us, similar to the first three industrial revolutions that took place. The World Economic Forum has done quite a lot of work on this topic. And the founder himself and the executive chairman, Klaus Schwab, wrote a book titled exactly that, The Fourth Industrial Revolution. And at the same time, the forum launched a report titled Deep Shift, Technology, Tipping Points and Social Impact. And this was published on the month of September 2015 by the World Economic Forum's Global Agenda Council on the Future of Software and Society. It identified 21 technology shifts that are fast changing our world. We will look at some of those shifts. Let's look at the definition of the fourth industrial revolution as per Wikipedia. It is the fourth major industrial era since the initial industrial revolution of the 18th century. It is characterized by a fusion of technologies that is blurring the lines between the physical, digital, and biological spheres, collectively referred to as cyber-physical system. Before we look into the fourth industrial revolution itself, perhaps it helps to reflect a little bit on the first three other industrial revolutions. The first one, which took place in 1760 to 1840, is the first industrial revolution, and it is characterized by the steam, water, mechanical production equipment. So this first industrial revolution is widely taken to be the shift from our reliance on animals, human effort, and biomass as a primary source of energy to the use of fossil fuels and the mechanical power which was enabled by this. So revolutions are actually as a result of humankind's desire to develop, expand, and grow. And this has led to the large number of significant interventions in our society. And society as a whole has benefited tremendously from these revolutions. The second industrial revolution, which is characterized by the division of labor, electricity, and mass production. This occurred between the end of the 19th century and the first 2 decades of the 20th century, and it brought major breakthroughs in the form of electricity distribution, both wireless and wired communication, the synthesis of ammonia, and the new forms of power generation. Approximately a century after the end of the first industrial revolution, the world witnessed a rapid shift from the conventional forms of the previous innovations. And this change was a target in utilizing the power of electricity, oil, and gas. This information is obtainable from the website of the World Economic Forum, and I would like to acknowledge them for such a comprehensive write-up on the Industrial Revolution. And they continue to supply valuable research output. And also they have established now the Center for the Fourth Industrial Revolution in San Francisco in the US. This is quite very helpful reference, and it's encouraged that everyone really look into that to understand how these revolutions come about. The third industrial revolution, it's characterized by the electronics, IT, automated production. It took place between 1969 and 2000. So if you look at all these revolutions, the first three, they have certain milestones that identify them. If you look at the milestones, some of the milestones that we find in the second industrial revolution, you will notice that work that was done to introduce telegraph, that was the beginning of the telecommunication era, and it stated that the telegram stands as a cornerstone of modern day communication systems. And the guy that was credited with introduction of telegraph was Alexander Graham Bell, although it was proven later that the person that really did more work on this through blood, sweat, and tear was a mechanical genius named Antonio Meucci, Meucci. And this Antonio is regarded as the father of modern communication. We also come across Edison, who actually had a quest to light up the world and brought about the bulb, the light bulb, and perfected it to a point where in 1906 he painted the bulb, and that was really the beginning of the manufacturing of bulbs, that brought about changes that were beyond everybody's imagination. People became able to light their homes, and as a result of that, they could also work long hours, and that led to the adoption of electricity. So these are quite very interesting milestones, and they really determined our new world we find ourselves in. The same goes with the Wright brothers, who invented a three-axis system that made aircraft maintain equilibrium even at a high speed. And this principle, until today, remains much more relevant in the aviation industry. Who can forget Henry Ford's Model T car? That as a result of it, and the assembly line production, many people could afford cars. And it is estimated that about 15 million of Model T vehicles were sold worldwide in 15 years. So this was quite massive indeed. And therefore, we ought to learn from the achievements of the first three industrial revolutions and use that as a basis for preparing ourselves for this massive one that is going to come, that is happening at this fast pace, and that is the fourth industrial revolution. So the technologies that are emerging and are affecting our lives in a way that indicate that we are at the beginning of a fourth industrial revolution indeed. A new era that builds and extends the impact of digitalization in new and unanticipated way. It is therefore worth a while to consider exactly what kind of shifts we are experiencing and how we might collectively and individually make sure that it creates benefits for the many rather than the few. Otherwise, we're going to find many of our people excluded. So it is this fourth industrial revolution that is already now described as the advent of cyber-physical systems that involve entirely new capabilities for people and machines. And these capabilities and infrastructure of and these capabilities are actually are still dependent on the technologies that comes from the third industrial revolution. So it's an expansion of that, and we need not panic, but just build on those technologies that we have already been more used to. So the complexities of technologies and their emergent nature makes many aspects of the fourth industrial revolution unfamiliar, and to many of us this can be very threatening. However, at the same time, when we look deeper into it, there are many opportunities that we can achieve as a result of us looking deeper into it. Some of the technologies that Klaus Schwab writes about in his book, The Fourth Industrial Revolution, are one, computing capabilities, storage and access. Number two, big data. Three, digital health. Four, the digitalization of matter. Five, the Internet of Things. Six, blockchain and wearable internet. Seven. Those are the first top seven. However, as stated, there are about 21 such shifts that he covers very much in detail in his book, The Fourth Industrial Revolution, as introduced. What I find quite fascinating when one goes onto the website of the World Economic Forum is what they call the technology tipping points, as they are expected to occur by 2025. So here are some of the forward-looking statements that they make on their website, actually, from that study. It stated that 10% of people in 2025 will be wearing gloves connected to the internet. And secondly, there will be the first robotic pharmacist in existence in the US. Thirdly, there will be the first 3D printed car in production by 2025. 4, 5% of consumer products will be printed in 3D. 5, 90% of the population will have regular access to internet. 6, driverless cars will be equaling 10% of all cars on the US roads. 7, there will be the first transplant of a third printed liver. 8, over 50% of internet traffic to homes will be connected to homes for appliances and devices. 9, we will have the first city with more than 50,000 people and with no traffic lights. And lastly, the first artificial intelligence machine will sit on the corporate boards of directors of companies. This is quite very scary, and then we're talking just down the line, year 2025. We are now in 2018. That is basically just 7 years from now. The other statistics that is published on the website of the World Economic Forum is the research by two Oxford researchers, Carl Benedict Frey and Michael A. Osborne, who estimate that 47% of American jobs are at a high risk of automation. And they have listed few jobs here that have got a certain probability of automation. He's saying that the highest probability of automation is with the loan officers, and that is 98% probability. Paralegals and legal assistants sitting at 96% probability of automation. Retail salespersons sitting at 92%. Taxi drivers and chauffeurs at 89%. Security guards, 84% probability of automation. Cooks, fast food, 81%. bartenders 77%, personal financial advisors 58%, computer programmers 48%, reporters and correspondents 11%, musicians and singers 7.4%, lawyers at 3.4%. So one can see that many jobs are going to disappear, and the people that are occupying these jobs, they're going to have to retrain themselves to take jobs that will be a bit more technically oriented, as their jobs will be definitely easily what we call automated. The various things that will happen that scares us is including things like in the digital health. Digitalisation is going to empower people to look after their own health. There will be apps that can track how much we eat, how often we sleep and exercise, and we will be able to ask doctors a question by simply typing into our own smartphone. And this is made possible by the big data that will also help to reduce costs and inefficiency in the healthcare systems. It will improve our access and quality of care, and it will make medicine a bit more personalized and precise. And those are the benefits. The 3D printers is also a phenomenon that will be creating not only cars, houses, and other objects, but also human tissue, bones, and customized prosthetics. So health is one of the sectors that will definitely be positively affected by these fourth industrial revolutions. So the beauty is that the patients will not have to die while waiting for a donor of a particular organ. So they could just be using 3D to do bioprinting of the organs that they need to survive. Coming to the Internet of Things, it is stated that in the coming decade, we can expect that more than 1 trillion sensors will be connected to the Internet. And if almost everything is connected, it means that it will transform how we then do business and help us manage resources more efficiently and sustainably. So the sensors that are connected to each other, they will be able to assess the environment and be able to detect dangers that we as people could be faced with, and therefore make sure that we are safe. The phenomena of self-driving vehicles was based on this concept of sensors that are connected to the internet. It is stated again in the World Economic Forum website that by 2020, around 22% of the world's cars will be connected to the internet, and that 22% makes about 290 million cars. And by 2024, more than half of the home internet traffic will be used by appliances and devices. Just imagine your fridge being able to communicate with you, informing you the state of freshness of the food that you stored in your fridge. We have also the phenomena of the blockchain, which is quite very fascinating. It's the early days, but it does look like blockchain will definitely eliminate the middleman, being the banks, in terms of verification of eligibility of the transactions. And this will become more so as more banks and insurers and companies race to work out how they can use the technology to cut costs. So what is a blockchain? Blockchain is essentially a network of computers that must all approve a transaction before it can be verified. How it happens is that let's assume that person A wants to send money to person B. So what he does is that he will initiate a transaction that is represented online as a block. And that transaction will then be broadcast to every party in the network. And those who are in the network will then approve the transaction as valid. And once it's approved as valid, the block then can be added to the chain, which provides an indelible and transparent record of transactions, and only then the money moves from A to B once it has been verified and added to that block. So this is quite very interesting, and this technology is definitely going to revolutionize the financial services sector. It will significantly reduce fraud, as every transaction will be recorded and distributed on a public ledger that is accessible to everyone who has an internet connection. Immigrants will be able to send money into the countries where the financial services sector is very poorly established, and there's also a belief that the authorities will also be able to collect taxes using blockchain. That is the future that is already here, and we better embrace it. It is said that we will wear internet on our body. In other words, internet or technology is getting more and more personal. So computers are moving from our desks onto our laps, and soon we will be wearing it on our clothing. It is stated in the World Economic Forum website that by 2025, 10% of the people are expected to be wearing clothes connected to the internet, and the first implantable mobile phone is expected to be sold then. And the potential benefits are great, but so are the challenges. So how will it affect our personal privacy, and how will the security part of it be addressed, and how will we relate to each other as people? All those are some of the questions that need to be answered, and we need to really prepare ourselves to deal with them. I like the section that talks about the 8 types of artificial intelligences, and those 8 types of artificial intelligences serves the following purpose: 1, transactional; 2, communicative; 3, educative; 4, social; 5, play; 6, administrative; 7, diagnostic; and 8, behavioral. I want us to look at this table called Purpose of Applied Conversational Artificial Intelligence, as published on the website of World Economic Forum. Is covering the primary intent, the application, and the examples of each of these purposes of artificial intelligence. Let's start with the transactional one. The artificial intelligence that serves the purpose of transaction are having the primary intentions of selling. And the application of such artificial intelligence are online sales and customer services. Here they give examples of Cognico or Twyla, T-W-Y-L-A. So that is the artificial intelligence that serves the purpose of transaction or transacting. The communicative purpose is primary intention. That is the primary intention of the artificial intelligence that serves the purpose of communicating is to inform. And the application is in areas like maps and transport, food and restaurants, cultural and social activities. And here the examples are Apple, the Siri by Apple, or Alexa by Amazon. That is the communicative purpose artificial intelligence. The artificial intelligence that serves the purpose of education, that's educative purpose, has served the primary intent which is to learn. And the areas of applications are in teaching assistance, special education, personalized education, parenting, and scientific learning. And the examples that they are mentioning there is the IBM Jill Watson, Muse, Wookiee, the Alien. The fourth one is artificial intelligence with the purpose, social purpose. The primary intention of that social purpose, artificial intelligence, is to connect. And this is quite the most common one. And the application, as we know, is in the social networking, the music discovery, and identity authorization. Examples are Facebook Artificial Intelligence Research, Twitter, Apple Face ID, and SoundHound. The fifth one is the artificial intelligence serving the play purpose, and the primary intent here is to entertain, and the area of application we find it in gaming and toys. And the examples are the Open Artificial Intelligence and Genesis toys. The sixth one is that artificial intelligence serving the administrative purpose, and the primary intent there is to manage, and the area of application will be in finance and digital integration. Example is Clio, AB, and Mosaic. The seventh one is the artificial intelligence, conversational artificial intelligence that serves the diagnostic purpose. And the primary intent is to identify, and the area of application of diagnostic purpose artificial intelligence is medication use, health monitoring, alert systems, e.g., death, and medical symptoms. And they give examples of ADA, Giant, GYANT, True.ai, and Juby AI. The last one is the artificial intelligence serving the purpose, behavioral purpose, and the primary intent here is to change, and the area of application is healthy eating, exercise, mental health, and well-being. And examples are Health Hero, Wubud, and True.ai. I would like us to end this talk by listing the 21 technology shifts that are presented in the study that I mentioned, the deep shift, technology tipping points, and social impact that was published in September 2015. There are about 21 shifts, and we will tackle these shifts one by one in subsequent episodes. Shift number 1 is implantable technologies. Shift number 2 is our digital presence. Shift number 3 is vision as the new interface. Shift number 4 is wearable internet. Shift number 5 is ubiquitous computing. Shift number 6 is a supercomputer in your pocket. Shift number 7, storage for all. Shift number 8 is the Internet of and for things. Shift number 9, the connected home. Shift number 10, smart cities. Shift number 11, big data for decisions. Shift number 12, driverless cars. Shift number 13, artificial intelligence and decision making. Shift number 14, artificial intelligence and white-collar jobs. Shift number 15, robotics and services. Shift number 16, Bitcoin and the blockchain. Shift number 17, the sharing economy. Shift number 18, government and the blockchain. Shift number 19, three-dimensional printing and manufacturing. Shift number 20, three-dimensional printing and human health. And lastly, shift number 21, three-dimensional printing and consumer products. Klaus Schwab groups all these mega trends in three categories that defines the fourth industrial revolution, and they are physical, digital, and biological. Physical, digital, and biological. Those are the three broad categories of these mega trends. And as stated in the definition, they are referred to as the advent of the cyber-physical systems that involves new capabilities for people. And these mega trends affect the economy in terms of employment, growth, and the nature of work. They also affect businesses in terms of customer expectations, new operating models, data-enhanced products, and collaborative innovation. They affect national and global, or they affect the country and the globe or the world in terms of governments, international security, and countries, regions, and cities. That's how serious this is. In terms of the society, they affect the societies in terms of community, middle class, and inequalities that are happen as a result of that. At the individual level, they affect us, these mega trends, in terms of ethics, morality, identity, human connection, managing public and private innovation. Great. We have laid the foundation. We will come back and tackle these topics in detail, especially the 21 shifts, technology shifts that we have to deal with. And hopefully we can create excitement and help the country at the individual, organizational, and government level to be ready for this big phenomena called the Fourth Industrial Revolution. Thank you and goodbye.